either presently or at a later date. We understand that grief does not wait. We are trained to help you walk this path to bring comfort and support. Every life deserves to be recognized and celebrated, whether it be together or afar.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
That's right. I'm Michael Divine, the Doctor of Truth. I should have thrown that in there, because truth is important here. Absolutely. We welcome to the program once again, City Manager David Fierke. Hi, David.
Hi, Mike.
What's going on, man?
It's a good Tuesday.
All right. Did you watch the game last night?
I watched till about 10 o'clock, and then my eyelids got really heavy, and I could tell Alabama was kind of going to run away with it, so I went to bed.
Yeah, the last time Iowa State played basketball, I think I had the same reaction. They were 30 points behind in the second half. So I said, "Well, I think I'll go to bed."
Yeah,
I don't see much sense of this, but Iowa State's having Steve Prohm. I continue to have faith in him. I hope he does well. Of course, we should be very proud of Matt Campbell and his accomplishments at Iowa State University. I'm glad he's not going to the New York Jets. I just can't see him in green.
No, I hope he comes back to Iowa State. He brings a lot of excitement to the program. It's fun to watch.
Well, he's preached loyalty, and I believe that is a virtue he possesses, and Brock Purdy's going to come back next year and a lot of his studs. And I'm sure that's part of the reason that Purdy and those guys are coming back, is because that Campbell's staying strong with him. I don't expect him to be at Iowa State forever like Kirk Ferentz or anything like that. But I'm sure there's going to be could be the Ohio State job because he's from Ohio. You never know. Even though Ryan Day has done a terrific job despite the butt kicking they took last night.
I think he plans on staying there a while too.
I hope so. So something I wanted to ask, and we discussed it a little bit before we went on the air. Now, the city of Fort Dodge is getting low interest rates.
Very much so.
From bond. Explain the bonding process and why we're getting these great interest rates.
Okay, so put things in perspective. We sold on the bonds that you're talking about. Actually, we sold two sets of bonds. They both got pretty good interest rates. The really good interest rates are the tax-exempt bonds. We sold roughly $9 million worth of bonds, and we're paying an interest rate of about 0.95% annually for 10 years. They're 10-year bonds. So it's not like a mortgage or a 30-year mortgage or a 20-year mortgage. It's 10-year bonds. And we typically sell our bonds on a short period like that so that they come off sooner so that the councils can keep doing more projects. So our debt structure, even though we carry a good bit of debt, is pretty short. I mean, it doesn't stick around a long time. On more of the general obligation stuff. A lot of our utility debt's longer, like 20-year debt, but our the general obligation capital improvement plan stuff is typically on the shorter side, so that it retires sooner. Why we get good interest rates? Well, the market's pretty good still for that, so that's part of the reason. But I think
the interest rates through the Federal Reserve really haven't gone up.
Yeah, so that impacts it. In addition, we are a very good credit. The city of Fort Dodge, we enter the bond market about every 2 years and selling about this much. We're selling a little bit more because we have some, part of that $9 million is a refunding bond of a water bond, geo-backed water bond. So we're getting a cheaper interest rate. So for the remainder of that life, we're going to save a couple $100,000 in interest.
Geo-backed, did you say?
Yeah, general obligation backed, which means, and for the listeners' sake, what that means is that the city can and has the authority to levy a property tax to pay off the bonds. And when I mentioned the water bonds, now those are paid by water revenues, but at the time we backed those with our general obligation because they were kind of a unique project that didn't fit with our other typical water revenue sources. So we put a geo backing on them, and that's really what that means. So a lot of these are our basic capital improvement projects we do. There could be some street work in there. There's usually, some of our building work has been in there and other projects like that. Some fire trucks can be in there. But and I get back to the point is we are a really good credit. One is because we sell bonds regularly. So the bond buyers know us. We're not, and we are rated pretty good by Moody's, which Moody's is a national rating agency.
Mm-hmm.
They when municipal bond markets go into the market, you're either rated by Moody's or S&P, and we've been rated by Moody's this whole time. They rated we're a AA3, which means you can be a AA2 or AA or a AAA. Very hard for cities to maintain a AAA rating. There's no cities our size that can maintain AAA. You just don't have enough of a diversified economy. They judge you based on what are your economic factors in your community. They judge you based on what is the statutory factors of your ability to repay debt. They judge you on your financial management. And then just, I think I mentioned economic factors as well, but we do really well when it comes to our the statutory factors, because as I mentioned earlier, if you sell general obligation bonds, you can levy a tax to repay those. The state allows that. So you have a pretty good, robust way of paying those bonds back. And then our financial management has been outstanding. Give credit to Jeff Numbers, and that they look at our financial management, and that we're up with a AAA level. But because our economic things were smaller, and then just our overall, if you look at like the national average, of the incomes and property values and all that, we're a tad bit lower because we're rural Iowa, right?
Sure,
so,
right.
So there are some scales we do really good on, financial management and statutory, and there's some things that we're a little bit weaker on, like overall economic community economic conditions. So they balance all that out, and they've given us a AA3 rating for, I would say, close to 10 years now, and so that helps get us really reasonable prices on our bonds.
So a firm was mentioned, and that would be the Robert W. Baird and Company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yeah. What was their role, or is their role?
So they are underwriters. What they do is they will then pay the city that amount of money, the whatever $9 million.
That comes from Robert W. Baird.
Yeah, okay. It comes to us, and then we agree to pay them basically their bid back, which is that the amount of principal plus the interest on an annual basis.
Right.
And then what they'll do is they don't hold all these bonds. They will remarket them. They'll resell bonds. I mean, there's a whole secondary market for municipal bonds as far as who ultimately will be the bond holder. There can be just regular old people want to invest and want to hold municipal bonds. Remember Ross Perot back when he ran for president, and he was this guy worth $3 billion, but he paid no taxes because he had all his investments in municipal bonds.
Yeah,
because they're tax exempt. You don't pay state or federal income tax on these bonds.
There's a great Ross Perot story I had from my car sales days.
Yeah,
Ross Perot lived in Dallas, and his Cadillac wasn't working correctly, so he took it to a Cadillac dealership in Dallas. Well, they told him to go wait in the waiting room. Here's Ross Perot. He was worth $600 million at that time, which is probably worth makes it about $2 billion today. Yeah. So he's sitting in the waiting room with all the other folks, and the owner of the dealership walks by. That's Ross Perot. And he goes over to Ross Perot, very excited, and introduces himself to Perot and said, Mr. Perot, why are you having your car repaired? I mean, you could buy my dealership if you wanted to. Wouldn't you like to buy a new car? Why aren't you buying a new car? And he said, he kind of thought for a minute. He said, because nobody ever asked me to. And the dealer said, would you like to hear about a new car? The guy, Perot said, yeah, and he bought a new car.
That's funny.
And the moral of the story is you never get anything unless you ask. Oh, and that was the whole car salesman angle. If you don't ask them to buy the car, you're never going to sell the car. Yeah. Because they're not going to volunteer. And I think that's true in a lot of things. So this is AM 1400 KBFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. We're still going with that storm sewer stuff. Huh? I mean, there's a big chunk of this bond money going to where's that storm sewer work going to be done? What part of town, or all over town, or what?
So this is to start doing work. We're calling it what is it? South downtown. I can't remember even the project name right hand, but basically it's the South downtown. We need to improve the storm sewer, generally from Fairway to the river.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's undersized and it winds around behind Fair Oaks Middle School, down under railroad tracks, and ultimately out to the river. So it's such that, as when you have undersized storm sewer, you basically got to start at the end and work your way back up. So this isn't the full project, but we're starting with phase 1 and starting to figure out how we can, get all that stormwater taken care of.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to call yourself a town, you have to have an aquatic center. I used to call it a swimming pool, but okay, aquatic center. And a library.
Yes.
I know those things don't support themselves.
No, taxpayers support those.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I'm concerned, those are just amenities you absolutely have to have.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a good chunk of my youth in both those places, the swimming pool and the library, and I was better off for it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how people still grow up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope that's true, with all this online stuff. I mean, frankly, David, I'm at the age of, I do not understand young people. I'm like my dad. I look at the whole world confused. I've actually outlived my dad, but by the time he was 60, he looked around and went, what?
What? And it's changing daily. I tell my kids, hey, can you text your friend? And they go, no, I have to snap them. What?
What?
You don't even know their phone number. No, I have to snap them. Like, oh, you have to be kidding me. So, I mean, that's how things are.
What does that mean?
Snapchat.
Snapchat.
But they call it snapping. Instead of calling or texting, they snap.
They snap.
They don't text.
The mayor was in here last week on Thursday at his usual time, and he snapped.
Well, he's a little more advanced technologically than even me.
Well, I don't know. Are you technologically advanced?
I don't know.
You don't really look like a techie. You look like one of those guys that still works math problems on a sheet of paper.
No.
I use a calculator.
Yeah, I use Excel now because Excel has the formulas even in them. But no, you feel like you're technologically advanced, and then you have teenagers, then you realize time has passed you by.
You're lucky you didn't have teenagers when Beavis and Butthead were on TV.
Yeah, I know. I used to watch that show and laugh, and I wasn't a teenager. I was a young adult. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I'd watch it every now and then. I'd think, my God, I hope the kids aren't watching this. But of course, here they'd come with their Beavis and Butthead voices. They were impersonating Beavis and Butthead. And I went, oh, man.
Yeah. I don't know if my oldest son ever watched that. So I think it might have been a little over with by then.
Beavis and Butthead were in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching them as like I said, a young adult.
Young adult. Were you in college then, or no? You're late 40s. No, you would have been you'd have been in college.
I'm 51.
Oh, 51.
Yeah.
Oh, well, hell, that was beyond your time. But you were still a young adult 25 years ago.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I was still old. I was still pretty old. Anyway, the city of Fort Dodge has passed a sign ordinance. Is that anything to?
No, and the amendment really just applies to the.
Is it an ordinance or not?
Well, it's an ordinance because you got to amend your regulations, and all we're doing is amending the regulations to allow the mall area redevelopment to do signs a little differently because it's set up with some regulations that fit more of a singular shopping center where you have maybe the big shopping center sign and then some small signs underneath it to allow the area to be more, I guess, fit more its development, with individual, it's going to some strip stores and some individual stores and things like that. So it's not changing overall regulations in the community. It's just really targeted at the shopping center.
Everybody, or a lot of people know Mike and Shelley Kopp. I see they're building a new home and they got a tax abatement. Why did they get a tax abatement for 5
Everybody
years?
Gets a tax abatement.
Everybody does. If they build a new home.
Build a new home, you get a tax abatement on the first. I shouldn't say everybody because someone from Williams Bend is going to say, no, we didn't get the tax abatement. Because they didn't because the city took the TIF off of that for certain projects there. But so if you're building a new home, you get you get for 5 years, you get an abatement on the first $75,000 of value.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, great.
So, yeah.
And I'm glad they're building a new house.
Yeah. And it's an incentive to try to get new housing started. And if you build an apartment building, you basically get like 100% for 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's why we're seeing some apartment buildings going up.
Yeah.
Did we get that development done over by the new middle school? I keep calling it the new middle school.
Well, it's under construction.
Is it going on right now?
You don't get out much, Mike.
Well, I haven't. I never go to that part of town. I'm not a middle school student.
I know. I drop the kid off every day, so I see.
I seriously, I'm out of middle school.
Yeah.
Really.
But yeah, it's under construction. I think they got all the foundations built. I think they got the garages above the ground. So it's a 95. They're building an apartment building with 95 units in it, and then they're going to build like a townhome building or a couple of buildings, and they're going to have like 20 units in it. So there's going to be diversity of kind of townhome units and traditional apartment buildings, and that's just phase one. And then they can do the exact same mirror image on phase two. So we're probably, I think they're going to wait and get this one established and probably earn some income off it, and then start phase two and see how that goes. But no, we're really excited about it. It's one of those complexes where, since I've been here, people have asked, whether it's our employees or other people new to town, it's like, hey, where's an apartment complex that's got a clubhouse and a pool, and the kind of things you kind of see in the larger cities. So we're finally getting a good project like that.
Yeah, most of the larger cities, if you have an apartment complex, you got a pool, you got a common area out there where there's a pool.
And this one will have a dog park in it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Richard and Vicki Clark are selling us a house. It's not too far from here. I guess it's over on 8th Street. Is it one of those houses we want to knock down?
Oh, the selling the city? Yes.
Well, I guess it says right here that the couple is going to be paid $20,000 for demolishing the house. Yep. This Clark must be the guy that had Clark Brothers Construction or something, or whatever it was a few years ago. And they operated some heavy equipment anyway. I didn't know them personally. I just knew of them. So the Clark's going to knock down.
Okay. Yeah.
He's going to sell us a house and knock it down, and we're going to pay him to knock it down.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a good deal. And is this, how much money do we have? The 8th Street, that's over there by Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty nasty houses over there.
There's a lot less than there was before.
Well, I'm glad of that.
There's, and the idea.
I don't know how that area got so run down so fast.
Yeah, I don't know, but it did kind of got run down. So we're acquiring almost those 2 blocks there. Not the apartment complex, but most of everything else we're trying to get. And then we're starting to work on some concept plans of what that area could look like redeveloped. What kind of what would be cool to put back in there. I think there's an opportunity to do, to have a cool neighborhood there. What that ultimately looks like, I don't know. I mean, we had success when we did the Parkview neighborhood. I think some people like living closer to the city center and like the opportunities of that. So what does that look like as far as, is it multifamily? Is it single family like Parkview? Is it more of kind of a townhome, row home kind of idea? I don't know. I mean, that's one of the things we're going to explore over time. And as we keep acquiring it, then hopefully do a nice, really cool new development in that area.
Hopefully so. Old Corpus Christi Church is coming down, right?
I don't own it, so I wouldn't.
Yeah, I know that. And I shouldn't ask Heather or something, but it looks like it's coming down now, for that matter. And that's my son got married in that church. There's a lot of memories in that old church.
And the question we still haven't answered from the city standpoint, because that is obviously it's the parish's property. Is should that be included in the redevelopment area, and how should it be included? Because it's adjacent to stuff we're acquiring. It's a lot of land, so it could be part of it. Probably, in my opinion, it should be. But again, I don't make that decision. I'm not the owner of it. And ultimately, we'll have to work that out.
All right. Well, that area needs some help, and I'm glad it's getting it. Actually, there's a lot of towns, or a lot of sections of town, that we can buy old houses in, I suppose. Do we still have that program going on where people buy houses, older houses?
Yeah, we
promise to renovate them.
We have a program where we put aside a certain bit of money. I think it's about $100,000 a year, which that just goes towards abandoned houses. When houses become abandoned, then we acquire them, and then if they're good enough to be rehabbed, we'll try to sell them to somebody who wants to fix up a house. It could be a fix up and live in. It could be a fix up and flip. That's not really a concern of ours. It's just try to get those fixed up. If they're beyond repair, usually what happens is we buy it and then we demolish it, and then depending on what the lot's like, it may be like we got to get a couple lots, and maybe somebody will be interested in it. Sometimes we buy these houses, tear them down, and the neighbors want the lot for a garage, because some are older neighborhoods, the houses are really close together, and they're either no garages or it's a small garage off the back alley, and someone might want something bigger. And so we've done that quite a bit. It's just a matter of, what the situation is. But we don't have
a lot of people in that old, was it Holly Park neighborhood? They worked at Hormel and walked to work. That people used to do that, especially in larger cities.
Holly Park's a nice neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh, I think it is.
Yeah.
And we God, I don't know when that school came down, many years ago, but a lot of those guys worked at Hormel.
That would be it'd be a little bit of a walk home.
Well, they'd usually stop at what is now Amigos. So it wasn't that bad.
Get rehydrated before they walk up the hill.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, I admit I've stopped at Amigos on my bicycle and then get rehydrated and have to ride up the hill, and that's not pleasant.
I was going to say,
a bit of a hill.
You're a younger man than I am. I have a bike as well, but I'm not getting down there in my bike. I'll drive my car down. One last thing, the Warden Plaza. We making any progress with that thing?
No, not really.
Matt Bemrick was here Thursday. He said they're suing us for non-compliance with the contractor. That takes some big ones.
I think so.
I mean, they don't do anything for how long?
I know.
Don't even hear. They fail to fulfill their part of the contract. We don't even hear from them for how long. And now all of a sudden, we're going to sue you for getting rid of us. Well, you didn't do anything.
Yeah. So and being in federal court during COVID, it's going to be super slow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So who handles it? Does the city attorney?
Crimmins is handling it. Yeah.
Crimmins is going to go in there? Well, Crimmins will scare the hell out of him, won't he?
He's good.
All right. I just want to ask you one other thing, and then I want to thank you for coming. How do you impeach Allstott and Fritz? Impeachment seems to be in the air. Those guys hurt my feelings, so I want to impeach them. No. I mean, that's justifiable, isn't it?
There is no impeachment.
No mechanism to impeach city councilman in Fort Don?
No. Sorry.
All right. I was going to keep Bemrick on his toes with the threat to impeach him, but I guess that's out. One thing about Matt, he doesn't really care. He doesn't care what I say or think. All right. David Fierke, city manager, has been our guest. Thank you, David.
You're welcome, Mike.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Don.
Michael Devine, the doctor of truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
433, the news is next.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Well, as the world's blandest man, the idea of insurance made for me is almost